If I were to start my cybersecurity career over, here are the things that I would do to guarantee my success. Cybersecurity seems really hard to get into, but if you know what you're doing, then it's a piece of cake. People like to pretend that cybersecurity is some black magic, but it's really not. All it is a series of steps that all of the successful people tend to take along the way. Okay, so step number one, the first thing that you need to know about cybersecurity is it's all very foundational. You can't just jump into knowing how to hack without knowing IT fundamentals first. So I would say start learning networking. Networking is the backbone of everything. It's a backbone of the entire internet. If you don't know networking, you're going to have a really hard time with anything in cybersecurity. You're going to need to know what endpoints are, what servers are, how the cloud works. All of these things intertwine in cybersecurity, and it's really important if you want to be good at your job to try to understand all of these different components and how you would use them on a day-to-day basis, or how an attacker might use them in order to gain access to environments. And really, this goes beyond what your college is going to teach you. They're going to teach you pretty basic stuff, which is great. You should definitely be focusing on learning that. But if you really want to be good and get a high-paying job that you're one of the best people at the company you work for, learn a little bit deeper. Start doing things like reading Windows internals to understand how the underlying Windows components work, because we all know that that's one of the most widely targeted systems in the world by attackers. If you can't really understand how things work and how they should be, you're going to have a really hard time spotting threat actors and attackers inside your environments, because you're not going to know how to spot the weird stuff. All right, step two, really start understanding how big of a field cybersecurity actually is. It's huge. There's so many different jobs within cybersecurity, it's not funny. Do you want to be a pen tester? Or basically a hacker, somebody who's emulating all the bad guys out there? Or do you want to be in incident response, where you're handling the situations that the bad guys have created? There's a lot of different things to pick from. You could even be a threat hunter, and that's kind of what I do. And basically, you're looking in a network, looking in an environment for signs of bad guys that you haven't alerted on and that you don't know about, but you're checking just in case because they might be there and you don't know about it. You could be in compliance. We need people to draft policy and make sure everybody's following the rules, because when nobody's following the rules, that makes it much easier for attackers to start doing all sorts of stuff in your environment that is not good. Another subset of cybersecurity is things like risk analysis. When the business makes a decision, they're going to want to know, is that going to cost them money later on down the road in a breach? Or is it a safe decision that we can maybe mitigate a little bit of risk? There's so many different jobs within cybersecurity. There's room for basically everybody who wants to do it, because everybody has different talents and skill sets. Not everybody's going to be super duper technical and read the manual and everything and understand how to exploit different things. There's going to be other people who are really good at determining how much money the business is going to lose if they make a certain decision. So yeah, don't get overwhelmed with the amount of things there are in cybersecurity. They're like, oh my god, I need to learn so much, and just start learning all sorts of crap. Just stay focused, learn the basics, and then as you start learning the fundamental IT information, then you can start moving towards a more specialized field within cybersecurity. Another thing that I would say that a lot of people focus on that you don't really need to is certifications. They can be really good, but a lot of times people just are studying, they take a test, and then they forget everything that they've studied. Now, some jobs require you to have certifications, and so if you have a certain job in mind that you really want, it might be a good idea for you to go get a certification. But overall, what really helps you get jobs is demonstrating that you have the ability to learn. There's always going to be new things to learn in cybersecurity. I always say if you're not learning something at least once a week, you're actively falling behind. And so employers, they want to know, can this person keep up? Can they continue to keep our business safe in a way that is relevant today to the new attacks that are happening? If you can't, they're going to struggle hiring you. So what you can do to stay relevant is just start reading the news. Now, I'm not talking about political news, although in some cases that can be very relevant. When we see certain things going on in the world, there's certain threat actors who might become a little bit busier or targeted towards different people. But what I really mean is reading the cyber news, finding out what vulnerabilities are coming out, finding out what different threat groups are active and which ones have gotten takedowns by the FBI, seeing what got patched in this month, Patch Tuesday. There's a lot of different things that you could be reading to stay up to date with. And of course, in addition to reading, you should probably also be doing. So set up your own lab environment. It's not hard. It doesn't take a lot of equipment. If you just have one laptop, you can have a pretty damn good lab environment. You just have to know how to set it up. And within your environment, you don't have to try to reconstruct crazy attacks that are really hard. You can if you want to, but if you just start with the basics, just start poking around your operating system, asking yourself, do you understand what this particular DLL does? Can you find it in Microsoft's documentation anywhere? Maybe, maybe not. They have a lot of undocumented features, but that's why messing around in a lab is fun. You might find something that other people haven't. Or, at the very least, you'll learn a little bit more than you knew before. Okay, so tip 3. Something that you need to realize is it can take a really long time to get a job in security. Hardly anybody just gets out of college and then gets a job in security right after that. That's honestly probably not even the best approach. Normally, what a person should do, and what I did as well, is I found a different job as a sysadmin. People can go work on the help desk. There's a lot of different areas within IT that a person can work before they graduate up to security. So take your time and be patient, and don't get frustrated if you're not, getting a job right away. Look for those internships. They really teach you a lot. And then, like I said, the help desk and sysadmin stuff, first off, shows you how a business works because it's much different than college or school or anything like that. They also help you understand what users are like and their patterns, because that's what attackers are going to be exploiting. Honestly, at the end of the day, is users. I guess that leads me to tip number 4. You really are going to start wanting to understand how attackers think, because, when we're in cybersecurity, at the end of the day, we are doing that so that way we can stop the bad guys. That sounds really corny, but it's actually true. Even the hackers, like the pen testers, the only reason they have a job is because they're attacking a company that wants to be able to prevent a real-world bad guy to exploit those vulnerabilities. That's why they write a report after. That's why there's all sorts of processes within these organizations to help fix the problems that the pen testers found. When you're in IR, obviously, you're trying to help the company recover from whatever event it was, maybe ransomware, maybe it's just a phishing campaign that these bad guys have perpetrated against the organization. If you can take the time to understand how the attackers are thinking and what they normally do, you're going to be very far ahead of most of the people starting out in cybersecurity. One of the ways you can do that is, again, just by reading and learning. There's so many different research groups and companies, or even independent researchers, that put out information on threat actors and say what they're doing, what they're exploiting, how they're gaining initial access, and what they're doing afterwards. There's things like the MITRE framework that you could read through to help you understand what the attackers are doing. And like I said, attackers love to exploit the users. Understand how people make passwords, how crappy they are at figuring out what they're going to put as their same reused password, or what fish they're going to click on, or what click fix campaign they're going to suddenly be entering into their command prompt. Learning to recognize the patterns with threat actors is going to make you insane among the cybersecurity game. Alright, and then the 5th tip I have for you is something that I wish I would have done when I was just starting out. And it could be a little awkward, but try to find a mentor. Try to find somebody who is already in cybersecurity and knows exactly what's going on. Maybe they're in the field that you want to be in. Maybe they're a incident responder, and that's what you want to start doing once you get out of college or start getting your first cybersecurity role, whatever it is. Start talking to them, creating a dialogue, and understand what they do on a day-to-day basis, and they can help you learn. They can say, hey, I saw this campaign going on the other day. You might want to start researching that and understanding that. If you can't find a single person to be a mentor, that's okay. There's tons of groups online that focus on cybersecurity that I'm sure would be happy to accept you and listen to your questions and help you as long as you're willing to put in the work. I know one thing that cybersecurity people hate is when somebody is like continually asking questions and never trying to learn anything themselves or apply what they've learned. So if you're going to join one of these like online communities, just make sure that you're willing to put in the time and effort it takes for these people to help you out. Another great thing you can do is start doing CTFs. Usually these are group projects and they're often like given in levels. So there'd be a beginner level CTF or intermediate, whatever. And if you can find a whole bunch of people that are in the same skill range as you and start learning things together, it helps it stick more. And now you found a community of different people who enjoy doing what you want to do. You could talk about things together and learn together. I guess this all really comes down to just one thing, and that's the desire to learn. I believe that anybody in cybersecurity should really crave knowledge. They're going to want to learn things, want to do things, want to break things, want to see things. If you're not going to do that, then I don't know what to tell you. Cybersecurity really requires it. So if you want any more advice or have any questions, just feel free to ask me in my comments. You can also just go to TikTok, send me a DM. A lot of the times I do answer, as long as your first message is compelling enough. But I love helping people in cybersecurity, and if this video helped you, please let me know.